Welcome to Forging Flame, the podcast where we sit down with artists, creatives, entrepreneurs of all types and discuss their creative processes, their inspiration, their motivation, and all the stuff that's dragging them down, apparently. I'm Nick Hinton.
And I'm Ryan Selleck.
And today we are here with Ryan M. Bruner, another famed Ryan.
Brewer.
Ah, Bruner.
We actually have a friend named Ryan Bruner, so we got the wires crossed.
Yeah, I know. We've been going back and forth on that.
Oh no,
Ryan Bruner, not Ryan Bruner. Ryan.
It's too many
Brewer.
Ryans. We already talked about that.
Ryans.
Too many Ryans today.
Yeah, it's a problem. We're gonna have to enact some sort of legislation about this.
So that's got enough Ryans without adding ones that aren't here into the mix.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fuck those guys anyway.
There can only be one in the end.
I like the way this podcast is going to turn out.
Yes.
Be sure to watch the video if you want the full R-rated gory edition.
Whoa.
The ritual sacrifice is later.
Hey, all right.
Just stick around to the end.
Welcome to Indianapolis's southeast side. Anyway, Ryan M. Brewer.
Yes.
Ryan just released an album.
I did. Yeah. You know, it's a weird time to release an album. It's a weird time to do anything.
Yeah.
But I was ready to release it, so I did. And part of the, I guess the reason why I was more or less reluctant to release the record in the middle of quarantine was because of the mode in which the record is being distributed is, you know, you can stream it and all that, but if you want more, instead of buying an actual CD, you buy access to a website. And, you know, each song has its own page, and it's kind of an immersive kind of deal there. I was hoping to give benefit to people who want to support and want to buy a thing.
Sure.
Without giving them something that ultimately is going to end up in a landfill.
Right.
Because no one really wants a CD. And even people who want a CD don't want the technology of the CD. They just want the booklet and the photography and the liner notes and all that shit and the lyrics. They don't want an actual CD. It's a pain.
Yeah.
And the jewel case, it's definitely going to crack at some point.
It's 100% going to at least scratch. And, you know, it's annoying. Nobody wants that. And then you've got this giant textbook of CDs in your car that you've got to meander around.
I think the largest quantity CD case I've ever owned was like 356.
Yeah, those massive just
Yeah.
encyclopedias.
Yeah.
And
Even still, I miss it though. I do. I do still miss like having tangible stuff in my hands.
For a while, I decided that I was going to keep I was going to get rid of all the CDs, but I was going to keep all the booklets in the case.
Right.
That way I could get it out and like look through it and be like, oh, I remember owning that music. I'll listen to that today. But it was a short-lived project because there's still this massive pain in the ass luggage you got to carry around just to listen to music.
Yeah.
Oh man.
How primitive.
Right?
Idiots we were
far.
back then.
I know.
Just idiots. We were terrible.
And it was so sharp back then, just having the regular little what like handyman like CD players in your car. And like, man, you were styling if you had that one that had the little buffer, so in case you hit a bump in the car, it didn't skip immediately.
Skip.
Yeah.
Anti-skip protection. I remember that.
That was
Somebody
pretty
was
neat.
responsible for holding the MapQuest printouts and the CD player to make sure that it didn't skip. And they had to be like soft hands. They had to be velvet. They just floated. They didn't bounce. They had to have their own internal shock system.
And even worse than that is when like you're listening to your favorite song and you're like getting right to that sweet spot where you're really gonna just jam hard.
Rock out.
And then the cassette tape adapter switches sides. So you got like a nice 5-second pause in there while the CD player is still going.
The cassette tape adapter. What a genius, fast forward button for technology, right? Like the CD player existed. It was a thing. Everybody wanted one. Everybody got one eventually, but they still weren't in the cars. Somebody was like, I can't wait around for cars to have CD players. I got to fast forward technology and get this pain in the ass adapter.
Still kind of a genius invention, though.
It really is.
Yeah.
And it's still out there too. I was at
Yeah.
Best Buy today and they were still selling them. So
Yeah, and they're like $30. They're stupid expensive.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
Stockpile those things. You can't put a price on that kind of nostalgic music listening.
Oh, yeah. Well, and frankly, I'm kind of shocked that it really seems like it's taken us this long, because CDs have been dead for like the better part of a decade now, right?
Yeah, they're just the undying dead. Yeah, they dead, but still alive.
Mm-hmm.
But still, it's
But still dead.
but in terms of like the charm, right? Like what you wanted, that booklet, the lyric sheet, the artwork, everything, you know, even the thank yous. Every time I got a new CD, I even read all of the, you know, the shout outs in the back, you know.
You thought you were going to get some like
No.
private information? I always did. I thought I was getting the inside track, you know, it's that insider's knowledge.
Well, and I was always in it for like looking for like snuck in little jokes between people, you know, trying to get, you know, on the inside there, like nicknames for people. I'm like, who's Buki? You know, like, so
you always wanted the connections between bands too. Like you wanted the bands you listened to listen to the bands you liked. So when like the Holy Grail was a band you like shouting out another band you like in the thank yous, you're like, oh yeah, I'm part of a community.
So I feel like even though music has been digital for a good long while now, it's like the primary method of access.
Yeah.
All that extra just kind of went away with no real fill in. Like I mean, I guess you could say that being online and like having a YouTube account or a social media account might be like kind of a good fill in. It gives you a level of access to like the people that you follow as artists or whomever. But it's not the same. That's always felt like a real hollow thing to me, kind of. But but with what Jessica Heckel did, with her latest album release, Empty Boat, and with what you're doing, like it seems like people are finally starting to like get it together and actually provide that next level, like immersive, tangible experience. Even though yours is still digital, you want to get a bit into what you're doing with your release.
Yeah. Well, so the way, if we ever have live shows again, ever, which I don't know if we will, but if we do in any time in the near future, the way you would purchase the record is that you would come up to me at a show just like you normally would, but instead of me handing you a CD, I'm handing you a business card. And the business card has access information for that website. So at that point, it's kind of like Project Mayhem. You decide your own level of involvement. Right? So if you go, I just wanted to support this guy, I don't really want to, I'm just going to listen to the record on Spotify. That was what I was going to do anyway. Cool. You take that card. It happens to be wildflower seeded, so you throw it out into the yard and it grows flowers. Cool. End of transaction, right? If you decide that you want more than that, if you want to actually own the tracks and the lyric pages and all that, you can go to the website and download the tracks and download a kind of a little poster-esque lyric sheet for each song. And then you can be done with it, and that's cool, and that's what you wanted, and that's great. If you want more, if you're the person that likes that kind of that tactile sensation, then you're going to appreciate the rest of the site. And that is the way you experience the site is you click on the first song, you press play, and then you just poke around on that page and stuff happens, stuff disappears, stuff changes colors, information pops up that wasn't there previously, stuff like that. And then kind of my favorite part is you scroll down a little bit and there's like a writing prompt. And I feel like part of the reason why people miss, and that sounds so terrible, it sounds like homework. It's like, is this guy assigning us tasks we got to do just to listen to his record? So I got to come up with a better phrase than writing prompt. But there is a writing prompt. And because I feel like that's why people miss live music, you know, because there's that interaction that goes on from stage to crowd. Right. Like I get to play a song directly for your face and you get to listen to it and then you get to respond however you want. Mm-hmm. That may be by getting up and going to the restroom during the next song. And I go, okay, that's some feedback in and of itself. Or it might be you clap. It might be that you woo and hoot and holler, whatever. I get to feel that feedback, and then you get to feel my feedback. I don't write set lists, right? So I'll change up the next song. Well, there's no real way to do that when we're online. Even with the streaming shows, everybody, Neil fucking Young is playing streaming shows, right? So like everybody's playing streaming shows, but there's still not that connection because most of the internet is delaying kind of the stream enough that there's a good 30 seconds to a minute between what I'm doing and what people are hearing out in the world, right? So there's no, even the live comments or whatever you'll look and you'll go, I don't remember what that's about. That's because it was a thing you said a minute and a half ago, right? So there's no real live feedback at all. So we're trying to fake that and then also fake the experience of getting a CD and like looking at the pictures and saying, okay, what's on this page where these lyrics are and what does that mean? And that's kind of what we were trying to recreate with that website. And with the benefit of hindsight, I'm pretty happy with it, you know?
Sure. I mean, it's remarkably well executed. The website is gorgeous. The interactive animations like really suck you into like an immersive sort of an experience. The little Easter eggs, you know, through clicking around and whatnot. I mean, that's all fantastic. And Ryan and I were just Ryan Selleck and I were just we're just talking a bit earlier about the writing prompts, and yeah, I definitely agree. Maybe pick a better phrase for that.
Phrase, right?
Functionally speaking, the level of like added engagement and inclusivity for your fans. I mean, it's really, really cool concept. And I think that I don't know. I love it. I absolutely adore the direct, you know, ask based off of, you know, the past kicked all of our asses. Dig deep inside your mine of memories. What's your best story? Like, sold.
Yeah, that's cool.
Sold.
Yeah,
that's
100%.
Cool. What did the other one say that we
let's see.
we were on earlier?
Oh yeah.
What are you shouting about? What are you
yeah, what are you yelling about?
yelling about? See, I like that too. I mean, you can call it a writing prompt if you want, but I mean, the way it's executed, it doesn't feel like a writing prompt.
I hope that when you're there looking at it, it doesn't feel like homework the way it sounds.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like I said, with the benefit of I've you know, Jake and Aaron and I, my friends Jake and Aaron Anderson from out of Pendleton, they have a company called Anderson Creative. They helped me do the website, and really what that amounted to was, you know, Jake and I kind of sitting down and thinking about stuff, and Aaron going, that's stupid or that's not stupid, and then the two of them trying to see if there's a way to make that kind of idea come to fruition through the website. And so we worked hard on it, and we obsessed on it for a long time. And finally, we were like, it's time. It's time to let it go. It's time to dress it up in its Sunday best and send it out there to parade around the town. So we did. And I'm glad to hear that you enjoy it and that it's landing the way that I hoped it would land.
No, absolutely. I think, like I said, it's remarkably well executed. Now, the album, since we haven't even mentioned it yet, is called Exorcism.
Yeah.
You wanna get into the story there?
Yeah. Exorcism. So everybody knows what exorcism means, right? There's somebody's possessed and they're trying to get that out, right? So in the spring of 2017, I brought out a record called Exorcism, which is a much less common term. But essentially it means you kind of realize that there might be something you can accomplish while being possessed that you couldn't accomplish otherwise. Something you could learn, something you could do, something you could become capable of. So it's the understanding that you allow kind of the possession to move forward in a symbiotic way, I suppose. It's very Venom-esque. But that's kind of the idea behind Exorcism. And I used to say I was in a funk during that period, but it just means depression. Like I was just a depressed individual. And so I decided that if I wasn't able to get rid of that, then I was going to pair up with it and kind of try to write a record out of that emotion and out of that place that I was in.
Oh, yeah.
And I was in a very much that space in life. I think we all go through at times where you're like, things keep happening to me, right? I'm passive. I'm just trying to do my thing and stuff keeps happening to me, rather than realizing that you're like adding to that atmosphere in which things are happening to you. You're probably causing it as much as you're probably doing some of it to yourself, right?
Oh, yeah.
But I wasn't in that space yet. I was just, things were happening to me. I was being possessed by these things against my will. So I wrote that record, and I'm proud of it. I think it's a good record. It's pretty stripped back. But when I decided I wanted to write a new record, the idea was, okay, it's time to update people on where I am. I'm not in that space, not in that head space anymore. So the idea of doing Exorcism after Adorcism, that was why. It's ready to let those things go and be rid of them. And there's some of that in the imagery for the website and for the branding of the album and that kind of stuff too. There's a lot of that letting go and removal. And
I can see through some of the symbolism, through even down to some of the photography, like of yourself. You can kind of get that vibe.
Yeah.
Now, let's see here. Oh man, I had a totally different question loaded up, and it just
it's gone.
totally
distracted you.
Totally escaped me. Yeah. Well, all right. Anyway, sorry about that. Now, how long have you been making music and recording it?
I guess I like got a guitar in 7th grade, like everybody did, right? My parents were active in church, so I sang a lot in front of church people and that kind of thing. And but I never really got serious about trying to write songs and trying to be good at writing songs until maybe senior year of high school, and proceeded to be really bad at writing songs for several years. Because that's the only way. It's a muscle like anything else, right? The only way to get really good at shooting free throws is being willing to suck at shooting free throws for a long time. That's the only way. That's the only way you get good at it. And so that's kind of what I feel about songwriting. It's like the only way to have any success at all is to just be bad at it for a really long time. So I did that, and I think I had kind of the second awakening. I was a soccer player all my whole life, and my dad's a basketball coach by trade. So kind of the understanding was we don't have enough money for you to go to school. So if the school is the thing that you want to do, you're going to have to figure out a way to fund it in some way. And I couldn't imagine how writing songs was going to help me do that. But I could imagine that if I played soccer hard enough, I could do that. So I ended up going to college to play soccer, and then freshman year, snapping an ankle, just snapping it on a razor scooter at a skate park, which is another story.
Ouch.
But just snapped it in half, and so I couldn't play soccer anymore. Never really recovered on the soccer field, not really. So that was the second awakening I had to songwriting, maybe senior year of high school, and then a year and a half later, I was like, okay, now I got time on my hands. I don't do this soccer thing anymore. What else do I like to do? And so I started trying to write songs, and that's really where I've been ever since. All the decisions I make in my life revolve around how I can continue to make songs as a significant amount of the time that I have, awake. Can I attribute a lot of my waking hours to making songs? It's like a board game at that point.
Sure.
You're getting closer to that objective or further away.
Min-maxing. It's kind of a theme we just discussed on our last episode with Mallory Hodgkin. She's an illustrator and visual artist, and very much focused on how her standard day-to-day actions impact her ability to create, essentially. So I like that concept. I feel like a lot of people are kind of vibing on that right now.
Yeah, I think it becomes more possible as people step away from kind of the career economy into the gig economy, where you're just I do whatever makes me happy, and it makes me a little bit of money. And then I do these other things that kind of make me kind of happy, and they make me some kind of money. And we put it all together, and it's enough to be alive, rather than I do this thing 9 to 5 every day and then have hobbies on the side. So I think as more people lean into that, like it's possible to have multiple jobs and still make like a comfortable living. I think it becomes easier to make one of those jobs something that you're passionate about. And I think that's good. And I kind of had to have that realization over the last couple of years. I used to play absolutely every, venue, bar, coffee shop, donut shop, and front porch that was not occupied. I would ask if I could play.
Sure.
I played everywhere all the time. I spent 3 or 4 years just touring just to California and New York and down to Texas, and just big circles, just all over the place. And I ended up in Europe, and I got back and I was like, I thought that was going to be the thing that was like, finally, I was going to be happy at the end of this. I was going to be happy at the end of this. I go to Europe, I tour, I did like 19 shows in 22 days or something like that.
Wow.
And I came back, and I was still sad. And so I had to like kind of ask some honest questions. And I kind of got to a point where it was like, okay, if I got to go play for 2 hours and I got to do a bunch of cover songs and I'm going to be in a bar in order to fund the next 2 or 3 shows that are going to be ones that I actually want to play, where people are listening, and it's a listening room and it's a songwriter's room or something like that, I don't really know that those cover gigs are any more valuable to me than any other job. Like I could be at a gas station and then playing those shows I actually like. Well, what does that do? It diminishes the ability to stay on the road for a long time, because especially, your first decade being a songwriter, you just play those gigs over and over and over again. And so I didn't really want to do that anymore. I realized I really only had any interest in doing like 4 things. I wanted to make songs. I wanted to write songs. I wanted to record songs. I wanted to talk about both of those things. And if it would allow me to do any of those 3 things, I'd be willing to talk about the whole thing, like the music industry as a whole.
Sure.
So I got lucky, and I had a friend of mine who said, I'm an administrator at Purdue University, Fort Wayne. He's like, we got a new popular music and music industry degree programs that we're pushing, and we need someone to teach songwriting. And I was like, I'll do it. So, nice. So over the course of the next couple years, I kind of slowly phased touring out for the most part. I go play the shows that I want to play and write songs and put out records. And now, obviously, I haven't played any shows since March, which is crazy to think. Like if there was a time machine and you went back like 5 years ago and were like, hey, Ryan, in 2020, you're just not going to play shows for like 5 months, I'd be like, no way. What happened? Did I break both arms? Did I finally buy that motorcycle? Why am I not playing? Still never bought that motorcycle. But so I've just been teaching at the university and writing songs and talking about songs, and that's been a lot more happy to me than having to play loud, inattentive bars.
Yeah. It seems like that's probably a bit more nourishing to the soul in general.
It really is. It really is. It really is. And you get to lie to kids for a living,
Do you have an example of a perennial lie?
They're like, what you're doing matters. And if you work really hard, you'll be rewarded in the end.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Nihilism's bleeding out here a little bit.
Ooh, that's all right. You're among good company there.
Yeah, there we go.
Ryan has a master's degree.
Yeah, I do.
In nihilism?
It might as well be. That's about as useful as a master's degree.
It's just how it evolved.
Yeah.
What is it in?
I got a master's degree in media arts and science. So I studied just the broad umbrella of media production, audio and visual production, web design, graphic design, basically a little bit of everything. When you put it all together, it's just almost completely useless. But it's cool because I did learn a lot of skills. So when the idea came up between us to do a podcast, I'm like, hey,
I know how to do all those things.
I know how to do every single one of those things. And if there's something I don't know, I can figure it out, you know?
Yeah.
So it wasn't a complete waste, but
Where'd you go?
I went to IUPUI, the IU School of Informatics there on I think Michigan and West, like right when that building opened. So it was super cool experience, and I definitely wouldn't, you know, trade it because it's kind of formed the person that I am. But I definitely didn't follow my intuition when it came time to go to college. You know, I didn't. My gut was like, nah, I don't want to do that. I just kind of want to make music. That's like that's where I want to go. You know. And it's just been one huge distraction. Meanwhile, shoving like my passions into the margins of everything and stretching myself so thin that I went into like, you know, states of psychosis periodically, you know. But
Yeah.
it, you know, it led me where I am today, and I have no regrets on that. But yeah, there were a few points that I really keyed in there, like. What was it? Like having the, you didn't say courage, but I think it does take a measure of courage to be willing to suck at something for a while.
Yeah.
The first time you pick something up, like I struggle with it because I'm also a martial artist. I train Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and I also teach Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And some people come in there and they are terrified of sucking. And I'm like, dude, somebody hasn't even shown you the rules of chess, and you're in chess club right now.
Right.
You're going to get your ass kicked.
Right.
That's just what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Like, and if you didn't get your ass kicked, it wouldn't be worth doing. But there is that measure of courage that it takes to get in there and just suck shit for a while.
Yeah, for sure. I think art in general requires that.
Yeah.
I think that's like the whole, but I think that's a very important trait to have as a human, to be willing to suck no matter what industry you're in or no matter what your passions are. I think it's super important to be willing to, and courageous enough to suck. Like that's one thing I do try to tell students and stuff is that, like, you think you know how good you are, but unless you've toured, you have no idea how bad you actually are. Like when you get far enough away that the bartender isn't your buddy from high school's cousin's boyfriend, and there don't happen to be two people that you were like, if you're far enough from home that there's nobody that has any desire to listen to you for any reason other than the strength of your songwriting, and you're on that stage staring at the microphone playing those songs, you have you have no real gauge of how good you are or aren't in a vacuum, right? So that's, I guess, a way more stark way of saying it's certainly courageous to be able to do. Like, to be able to walk into a bar and say, I know you guys have been listening to the jukebox and that's all your favorites, but you're going to turn that shit off for a minute and listen to me for a while. Trust me, you're going to love it. Like that does take a certain like level of like courageous psychosis, I suppose, to just be able to be willing to do that to begin with. And then to fail at it and then go out and do it again the next day is something else.
Yeah, especially because, I mean, you're a singer, and that's probably the most intimate instrument that you can play, is because it's so close to you, and that probably takes the most courage to really put that out there, especially when you're belting it out in a bar or a coffee shop or anything. I'm always terrified of like my voice cracking or something, because when you fuck up as a vocalist, everybody knows you fucked up.
Yeah.
Whereas if I'm playing drums or I'm playing guitar, if I fuck up, unless like the whole band falls apart and we stop playing, nobody's going to realize that I messed up.
Right.
So yeah, good on you. And by the way, you do have a great voice, man. Like you have a beautiful voice, man. I listened to some of the album. I didn't get through the entire thing because kind of time crunch, but great sound, very, very clean production.
Oh yeah.
Everything's super crystal clear in there. But yeah, wonderful voice. It sounds like you have like a lot of control over your entire range and you just freely move about it.
Yeah. I think it's kind of the same. That comes from kind of the same ideas as looking back on college and going, I kind of wish I would have not gone, but I know that the fact that I went has made me who I am, right? It's kind of the same thing. It's like I don't like doing those long bar gigs. But what those long bar gigs did do for me was just give me hours every single night fucking around with my instrument. Like, right, like I've got my acoustic guitar and my voice and 4 hours to fill. Like, you learn to do things to keep yourself entertained. And for me, like, who's like naturally competitive, I'm like, I'm going to try to do something showy and ridiculous and probably mess it up. I have a buddy, he's in, he was in Brooklyn. Where the hell is he now? He's in, where does he live?
Where'd he go?
He's still in New York somewhere. But he's still on Manhattan Island now. He's on the island now. So but his name's Ben Clark, and he writes songs, and sometimes when we're allowed to play shows for people, we tour together. But other times he writes musicals and stuff like that. So he's like a real interesting dude with like kind of two parts of his brain that do two very similar but also very different things. But one of the things he does do is he kind of has a showy voice, and this like we like to be competitive when we tour with each other, and we just do showy things live, right, with your vocals, right? And when we're not touring together, we'll just call each other and be like, dude, got to the end of whatever song today and just absolutely beefed the last 3 notes, just murdered it, just terrible clattering sound through the microphone, and you just be like, yeah, man, it happens.
Yeah.
it just happens. Let me tell you about the last giant note that I beefed. It's that's the like psychosis of the whole thing, like that just like stubborn bullheadedness to just be like, yeah, but tomorrow night I'm gonna hit it.
Yeah.
So tomorrow I'm gonna try the exact same thing and I'm gonna hit it. But what eventually happens is that you do.
Yeah.
Right? Because your voice is a muscle just like anything else. And it just has to be strengthened. Which mine's garbage right now. I've just now started to be like, I realized I need to be playing guitar for at least 2 hours every day to get back to where I have the kind of control and stuff, because I like get fatigued after 2 songs now because I haven't played in 5 months. And so I know you do live streams, but it's completely silent in the room and you're the only one in there, and you can be real soft and easy on the vocal cords. But if you kind of try to belt one out, you're like, whoa, it just immediately, the vocals went immediately because I have no stamina right now.
There's no like feedback energy to kind of thrive off of either.
Right.
There's no, there's not the same level of adrenaline coursing through your veins when you're in a, like in your shower,
Yeah.
versus
the adrenaline's
just
gone. You just stand in front of the mirror and try to intimidate yourself.
I like that approach.
I don't know how effective it is.
Is that what you're teaching your kids in your songwriting class?
It is. I teach it a lot of nonsense in my songwriting. Now, the songwriting class is really... The songwriting class is less technical than you might think, at least the way I teach it. Because it's Songwriting 1. The program's new enough that we don't have enough students that we haven't moved on to Songwriting 2 yet. But I have taught Songwriting 1 for 3 semesters. And Songwriting 1, in my mind, is, okay, this is the understanding that, yeah, the only way you're going to get good at this is by being bad at it for a long time. And the only way to be bad at it is to go out and actively be bad at it. You got to do the work. You got to stare at the blank sheet every day and let it make you feel uncomfortable and write anyway. And that's kind of, I think, ironically, teaching that and then going home and actually putting it into practice is what led to this record. Is what led to Exorcism. It's kind of going home and going, all right, you're not depressed anymore. Why are you trying to draw on those emotions to write songs now? Where are you at right now? What are you doing? How are you feeling? Where are you at mentally? And a lot of those ideas and concepts come about on the record, because as you let go of whatever it is that's been possessing you for the past several years, something has to fill the vacuum. Something has to move in where those things left. And I think a lot of times, just my anecdotal experience in talking to like friends and loved ones. And I think when you have something happen where you just have the wind pulled out of your sails, where you have a terrible breakup, or somebody passes away, or you lose a job, or whatever thing that you go through that really rips you up inside, I think that it's sad for a really long time, and it gets a little less sad every day until it's not as sad anymore. But then you realize there was this large part of your day that was taken up by sadness, and what have you filled it up with now? And I think most of the time, unfortunately, it's like anxiety that it's that it's gonna happen
delicious.
again. It's paranoia. It's paranoia that that maybe you don't really know yourself, and if that didn't work out, then what other things in your life did you not really know weren't real, and all those sorts of things. And I think that sadness leaves and can get replaced by a lot of anxiety. So I guess this Exorcism record is kind of letting the sadness go, and I think the next record's going to be probably weird again because because of what moved in place of the sadness.
That's exciting though. I'm as a listener, I think that's especially being able to hear that right from your perspective. That I am personally now invested in hearing how that progresses,
right?
Because I really love just the way that you framed that, and I did, since we're back onto the album, I remembered the thing that I was going to ask you earlier that I just totally fucking ate shit on, but I wanted to ask about the imagery of like the robot guy. Does the robot guy have a name?
He doesn't have a name.
Okay.
He looks. What's funny is we kind of told the artist, hey, draw kind of Brian, but not really. Right? Here's a picture of him. Here's the kind of, and he hinted at it, and it kind of made me look a little more grizzled than I am, and a little older, which just makes it look like my dad. So it looks like my dad is a robot, is what it looks like.
Sad robot.
My dad is a sad robot. My dad is a sad robot. I was born of a sad robot and a cement block. I don't know where I'm going with that, but I feel like it might be.
Write
a
it
thing.
down.
I feel like it might be a thing. Somebody write that down. I need an assistant. But yeah, so it's the kind of the idea that you've built up this Megatron of yourself,
sure,
where you've gone, okay, I can kind of play with this depression, and I can use it to my advantage, right, for Exorcism and for the tour, and I released Exorcism right before I went overseas and did the European tour, and kind of like, if you didn't know how good you were or weren't, tour internationally where people don't speak your language, right? Then you're on the stage and you can't fall back on like a clever joke in between. You can't fall back on those things because you're not fluent enough to like use that kind of rapport to get out of problems. So I kind of felt like, okay, I've got these sad songs and I'm kind of putting this depression on like armor. And like, that's kind of I'm going into battle this way. And then I started to think about how that armor eventually, if you wear it all the time, it eventually rusts and it wear and tear. And so the idea of a human with an exoskeleton, sure, and that exoskeleton's kind of rusting away was kind of the idea behind the comic book-esque imagery there.
And so he's got, and I just want to, just because these are the types of things that I really dig into. I'm not an especially musical person, but I am a very, I'm very interested in things like imagery. And so this guy, he's got what looks like a little skeleton hand. He's got, bits of earth covering, like his shoulders, he's got like some, did we just have what just happened?
Did a ghost thing just happen?
It might have just been a ghost thing.
It might have been a ghost thing.
We'll assume it was.
That's exciting.
Yeah, kind of. Or maybe someone on the interstate just had a tire blow
if you had like goggles that you could put on and you could see ghosts, like what they would look like during poltergeists?
I wonder about that shit all the time.
Like, just what kind of like weird asshole and is walking around and just knocks a glass off the wall, like, fuck you, man. Just walks on by.
I just assume the ghosts that knock shit off of shelves are all cats.
I mean, cat ghosts.
Yeah, yeah.
Ghost cats.
Ghost cats.
Well, we've got an episode title.
Somebody get on that.
Yeah. It's yours.
Somebody, Bloomhouse, make us a ghost cats. I know you're listening.
Yeah, absolutely.
I know you're out there.
Absolutely. Oh man. All right.
Oh, you were on the imagery of the robot.
Yeah. So what? Well, very specifically, I mean, is there anything to the skeleton hand that struck me as being especially out of place?
We kind of wanted to deal with the idea of there being perhaps you took off too much, right? In some instances, so I wanted there to be some element of there being some kind of skeleton, right? So if you take off the exoskeleton and go too far, you're down to the actual skeleton. So there's an idea of and I think the rose being in the skeleton hand kind of just happened naturally. Sure. But yeah, that was kind of the idea, that there are varying degrees of success to which you can engage in this practice of kind of trying to remove some of this old stuff.
Sometimes you work your fingers to the bone for what you think is love.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. That's the kind of stuff I love about. That's the exciting stuff about. You mentioned I think the industry as a whole, we refer to the music industry, right? I teach some music industry related courses there at the university as well. And kind of the idea to me is that there isn't one. There's nobody that knows what the hell they're doing. It doesn't really make any sense.
Sure.
Like they're all just throwing shit at a wall, trying to see what sticks and what works and what doesn't. Napster causes the big deal, and Metallica is stomping around like a bunch of babies, and the industry had a chance. The industry as a whole, the major labels had a chance to just embrace the technology then and give people what they wanted and figure out a way to become the gatekeepers of the technology that people wanted, instead of trying to destroy what people wanted in order to give them a technology that they had evolved beyond. And it's been that way ever since. It's right. So, in my opinion, you're right. When the demand for the CD, for the physical disc, went so low that people just quit buying them, and then people quit making them because people quit buying them, there was an entire added element of enjoyment that has been removed that I think needs to be added back in.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Right. And I think that's where the best artists are trying to be right now, like getting the physical thing, getting something back in exchange for purchasing access to the digital songs, right? Like that physical sensation of having that connection, especially in like right now where you can't have any connection because you can't play a show, you can't have a conversation, you can't do those kinds of things in person. I think that physical element, and that's kind of the next thing. That's kind of the next thing baking my noodle a little bit, is like, what do I do to give? Because I don't want it to feel put upon. Because I'm not, or to feel put on. Because I'm not the most physically artistic guy. Like I don't draw, and I don't craft, and I don't do those kinds of things. My next frontier is sewing machine. I borrowed one from my wife's grandmother. And I'm excited to start to that's the next frontier. But other than that, I'm not really an overtly like artistic, like physically artistic person. I don't like make things with my hands. So I don't want to be one of those people that is like, here's a handmade thing. And they're like, who made it? And I'm like, I paid somebody.
Right.
I don't want it to be that way. But I do have to figure out some kind of a way to kind of bring that physical nature back to getting a thing, because I think there's only so many t-shirts you can make and sell and stuff like that. And nobody wants a poster, man.
Yeah.
Nobody wants a poster anymore. And I love posters. I love posters. I think posters are great. And I do think there are some people who want posters. There are some people who have a whole room where they go and listen to music.
Right.
And there's no discernible design style other than just music kitsch, right? Some people have that. But other than that, nobody wants a fucking poster.
I mean, vinyl's making a comeback for sure.
Yeah,
There's a lot of modern pressings.
Last I checked, the only physical medium that has gone up in market share year over year has been vinyl since like 2016 or some shit like that, I think. So vinyl is certainly seeing a huge comeback, and I think that's the part of the deal is the physical. You gotta clean it and you gotta burn it down, and you gotta do physical things.
It's a ritual.
And it gets done. You gotta get up and you gotta take it, turn it over.
Yeah.
There's it's active listening. You can't just zone out and fall asleep in the middle of the living room floor listening to it because it's gonna click, and you gotta get up and turn it over. It's active listening. I like it a lot.
Human beings love their rituals, man.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It's very physical in its nature too, because there's a physical thing happening that's creating this analog sound.
Yeah.
That's very different than hitting play on a computer where, it's churning through these bits of information and it's recreating this sound. This physical sound is happening in real time in front of you. And that's something that I didn't understand until I got my own vinyl player and started spinning some records. And I'm like, wow, there really is something to this. Like, it has a vibe to it. Like, I'm not as much of an audiophile that I can really tell the difference in the sound that's being created, but I can really tell that, like, wow, this sound's being created right here, right now, and it's probably never going to play exactly like this again. You know, like
I guess if you get down to like an infinitesimal amount, it literally will never play that same way again because those grooves do wear out a little bit each time, I guess.
Yeah.
Each playing is a unique playing.
Yeah.
My mind is so blown right now.
That's pretty interesting. Well, there's this dude out of Brooklyn, I think. He does like live one of a kind vinyl pressings. So he's got this old style vinyl machine where you would sit down and it was kind of like the one in was it Third Man? Jack White's label or record store or whatever, and label there in Nashville. But you go and he's got one of the old like birthday machines where you would go in and you would like put in a quarter or whatever and you would sing your happy birthday greeting and it would like actually cut a vinyl record for you and spit it out for you. Well, this guy in Brooklyn's got one of those. And so basically what he does is he has you come in and he's like, okay, what are we going to do? Like 10 or 20? And I was like, oh, well, let's do 10. We sat down and we did 10 takes of one song. And then each time I played that take was cut into vinyl. And then so we had 10 copies, and then I could sell those as a unique listening of that take of that song. Like no one else has that. No one else has that take. So yours could be completely different. It could have a weird finger thing or a weird voice crack or whatever. It's just
this one goes out to Angela.
You can do that kind of stuff too. And the dude does like, I think he's got himself like a mobile rig now, and I think he'll like have like musicians like pay him to come to your house, and then you record these however many takes. And if it's like a Patreon or like a album release type of situation where you had a platform that, donate this much money and you get a personal record, then basically what you do is you sit down with this guy and you play and you go, this one goes out to Steve, thanks for donating, and then you do your deal.
Hey, Ryan Selleck.
What's up?
My wheels are turning over here.
Oh, yeah?
Let's make a vinyl podcast episode.
Nice.
That'd be so much fun.
It's ridiculous. It's like the most inefficient way of getting to the content within this medium.
It absolutely destroys the entire concept of a podcast.
Yeah.
But I mean, hey, donate $100 to our Patreon and get your we don't have a Patreon.
Not yet.
You should do it.
It's not a bad idea.
I've been thinking about it for a long time. I think it's a very interesting answer to there are a lot of people. So there's this new thing called Sessions, and it's a dude one of the dudes that was a founder for Pandora. He left Pandora. He decided, like our goal at the beginning, he's got some talking points like a presidential candidate. He's like, our original goal at Pandora was to help the unsigned artists to really have a platform and have artists be heard and blah, 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 right? And he's like, I felt like they strayed from at Pandora, they strayed from the mission. So I left, and I'm going to start this new thing. We started this thing called Sessions. And what it is chatterbait for music. It's just, you go to this page, and there's just a bunch of like thumbnails of musicians, and you just be like, huh, and click on one, and it bloop, pops up on the screen, and that person's just live cam in their room playing guitar. And here's the thing: I did a show, and it 100% is chatterbait for music. You're just clicking around. No, I don't like that click. Next thing.
He's got his dick out. Run.
I don't want this dick out. This is weird. And so it's just people going live in their house playing songs, right? But I think that's one answer. Like there are people out there trying to figure it out, right? There are people trying to go, okay, we've lost a lot. And it's kind of, if you've ever worked for like a big giant company, it's been around for many years. There's been a lot of technological changes happen over the course of that life of that company, sure. Right? And each time there's a new technological thing, they go, oh, here's one way this technology could improve our business. And they pull out that old part and toss it away and replace it with this little thing. And that happened every once in a while until now you're in 2020 and this business has like 15 disparate technological solutions for all their problems, right? And none of them speak to each other. Mm-hmm. And so all these companies are like, we need CRM software to help people like just right. Like, so you can have your quotes and your service calls and your blah, blah, blah. I think that's kind of what's happened with the music industry as a whole, right? Certain parts of the industry just got removed, like the micro label it just disappeared. It doesn't exist anymore. And that's fine because there are things like distribution of music and curation of playlists and promotion of talent, those kinds of things on a very algorithmic level. But those kinds of things can be replaced by Spotify and Pandora and whatever in Apple Music. But there are other things that a label does that cannot be replaced by Spotify and Apple Music and those kinds of things. And so I think that's what's going on is just like when we removed the CD because it's a shitty technology, we lost the liner notes and the booklets and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. When we remove certain parts of the industry and replace it with technology, you end up with a scenario in which you're throwing the baby out with the bathwater sometimes. And there are some people trying to, like I said, this Sessions guy trying to answer the question, like how do we replace what we've lost and make it better and more convenient for people? How do we meet people where they are? And I think that's an interesting solution to the problem. I don't think it's a very good one. But he's trying. It's
baby steps, right? I mean, we're all still kind of like just forging through the darkness right now, right?
Yeah,
like,
it's still just a free-for-all. Nobody knows what they're doing.
And on some level, it's kind of got to be like, from where I stand, which is a place of zero like valid perspective, right? But it seems like it's got to be like a little bit of both. You need that like micro-transactional, let me throw a couple of chits or coins or whatever the hell it is at you. Let me tip you for what you're doing in your live stream or what you just like, hosted on this service. And then stuff like what you're doing or what Jessica's doing, where you may or may not have something like physical or tangible in your hand, but you've at least got more of an experience, something that's really pulling you in and like making you connect on a deeper level with the content that you're releasing. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it's hard, right? When you're just kind of going it alone and you don't have the backing of like a major studio, but it seems like a pretty unanimous thing nowadays where like nobody really gives a shit about that. Like no musicians that I know at all are actively seeking record deals because it's become very obvious that that's not the path to getting you where you want to be, right?
Not necessarily, yeah. It's one of those things where like I kind of go back and forth on it because I do have sometimes I feel like I have a pop music enough bent that I think in my brain, if I just made a few different decisions,
right?
You know what I mean?
Be a bit more marketable.
It'd be marketable,
right?
But is it sustainable, right? But then you ask yourself the question, like, It's kind of that whole Dada art thing where they're like, yeah, that's just a toilet in the middle of this art exhibit. I could have done that. And someone's like, yeah, but you didn't. Right? It's that same kind of thing. Like, I do that Justin Bieber song's terrible. It's just simplistic and stupid. Anybody could do that. And you're like, yeah, but you didn't. You didn't do it. Right? And he did. So why is that? Why didn't you do it? And like, I think Taylor Swift is a really interesting example of this kind of concept where you go, okay, this is a person who obviously at least purports to care a lot about songwriting, right? It cares a lot about the artistry of songwriting.
Sure.
And a person who's extremely talented at writing songs that a lot of people relate to, right? So in the beginning, you have that decision. Am I going to sign a record deal? And I'm going to be at the mercy of this record label, and I'm going to do what they tell me to do, how they tell me to do it. And maybe that gets me famous, and maybe that makes me millions of dollars, okay? But maybe at some point, once I've got the millions of dollars, I don't want to do what they're fucking telling me to do anymore. So then what do? Well, you got to leave. Sure. And if you have a contract with them wherein they own all the old music, tough fucking shit. You made the decision back in the day where I was riding around in the back of a 92 Dodge Omni and eating peanut butter sandwiches and stealing Wi-Fi out of hotel rooms in the parking lot. Yeah. You were making millions of dollars. Now, I still get to do whatever I want. I've done whatever I wanted the whole time. But I have a hard time paying my bills sometimes. She is very upset that she doesn't get to do what she wants to do all the time. But she has millions of dollars. So, I mean, I always sympathize. Anytime I've always talked to my buddy Jake about this. Like you'd sell out in a second if you got the option. I was like, well, fucking course I would. Of course I would. I 100% would. I got a wife now. I just recently got, I have responsibilities for another human now. Someone else's, at least part of someone else's financial well-being is now tied to mine. Of course, if someone came up and offered me Taylor Swift money to shut the fuck up and do what they said, I'd do it. I'd be miserable, but I'd do it. I always think that's funny because I'm the same way. I'm like, I'm not actively seeking label representation. I'm not looking for a record deal. But if one showed up, I would take it.
Oh yeah, it drops into your lap. It's kind of hard to say no.
You would take it. It's I don't know, but you're right. It's definitely not the only way anymore. And we think about things like things get better, some things get worse. It's kind of like life in general, right? Life expectancy is longer than it's ever been. Mass poverty is lower than it's ever been. The number of people globally that are under the poverty line, starving, is lower than it's ever been. We've got more time than we've ever had. We have more leisure opportunity than we've ever had, and we bitch more than we could ever bitch. And you know why? Because somebody does have it shittier than you. But no matter how shitty someone else has it, you think that your shitty is really bad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's not your fault. That's just what you're raised in, right? You walk around with this shit, and eventually you're going to realize it all sucks. And no matter how much of it you get, it doesn't suck any less. You just have more sucky shit to deal with, right? So, it got sad there for a minute.
No, we say real around here.
Yeah, we get real.
Got real. Got real.
Really real.
You take the record label and you deal with the repercussions, or you don't. They're fine. That's all I should have said.
Yeah. No, I like what you said instead. Much better.
Yeah.
Well, okay. Kind of shifting gears. Unless, Ryan, did you want to tag up on that at all?
No, man. Go ahead and shift away.
Well, so kind of back to, because it feels to me like there's at least a slim possibility that a part of that discussion is something that you may or may not have discussed in varying lengths with your students, right? At least some of them.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So one thing that we've been kind of touching on a lot lately, Mr. Selleck and I, is perfectionism and how how stifling that can be, not only to output, of course, but just potentially your creativity in general. Is that anything that you're discussing at all with your students as well?
Kind of, yeah. I like a kind of grab bag of pop psychology with respect to that.
Sure.
First of all, I always tell my kids that I don't believe in writer's block. It's just when you're a songwriter, when you're any kind of writer, when you're a painter, that's your lifeblood. That's how you see the world. That's how you relate to the world. You don't get to like not write because you had writer's block, just like you don't get to not breathe because you just felt tired today. You still have to do it. It's what keeps you alive. It's what makes you you. And you cannot be so arrogant as to believe that you've got the muse on lock and that the muse just follows just you around. And whenever you sit down and decide you're ready to write a song, that's when the muse is going to show up and bless your pen. And that's not how it works. You show up every day and you bleed on the paper. And eventually the muse is going to show up and go, oh, yeah, that one's something. But here's the thing. You don't know when the muse shows up and does that. You have to finish the song. Finish the whole damn song. A song is not a verse. A song is not a verse and a chorus. A song is not a riff. If you start the song, finish the song. I find that people that tell me that they have songwriters that tell me that they have writer's block are songwriters that also have like 20 riffs and 20 started lyrical compositions that they didn't finish. Finish the song. How arrogant are you to look at 4 lines of lyrics and it's one verse and you go, nah, that sucks. How the fuck do you know? You didn't finish it. You didn't even finish it.
Oh,
the first 4 lines of WAP are there's some whores in this house. No one thought that was going to be a major hit when those first 4 lines hit. They had to finish the whole song to realize that they were on the brink of genitalia lyricism.
I just found out yesterday what WAP meant, actually. Ryan, are you aware?
I'm out of the loop on this one, my friend.
Well, you should be.
Okay, good.
I mean, I guess it depends on your preferences, but
Yeah.
I believe if I am correct, that is wet ass pussy.
Oh, okay.
It is wet ass pussy.
Okay.
See, the thing about what I have a bit of a tangent on wet ass pussy, and here's the thing. Here's the thing about wet ass pussy. That's a whole song dedicated to one physical characteristic of the pussy, right? That it's wet ass, and the whole song is dedicated to describing to you in painstaking detail how wet ass is the pussy, right? And some people are just absolutely disgusted by it, just upset, just really sick about it. But the thing is, they didn't like see it and go, that's gross, and turn it off and walk away. They saw it and were like, that's gross, and then listened to the end and then took notes and then bitched about it for the rest of eternity, right? And so what you've got there is this whole group of people that's upset, but we all knew those people were going to be upset, right?
Sure.
We knew.
Oh, yeah.
You could have painted up, it's a paint by numbers. You know who's going to be upset by a song called Wet Ass Pussy, right? So then you've got an entire group of the country whose reaction to that is, well, when men do it, no one bats an eye. And that's a mistake on 2 fronts, right? Because on number one, yeah, they do. The same conservative Christian yuppies who got upset about wet ass pussy also get mad about bone hard dick. I promise they do. Just say it to them. They'll be sick about it. I promise. And number 2, I think you're diminishing the accomplishments of the rappers, because I think that Cardi B and Meg Thee Stallion, what they've done is something that no male counterpart has ever been. There is no song called like Bone Hard Dick where the whole goal of the song is to just talk about how bone hard the dick is, right? It's like 49 metaphors in a row, all about just how wet ass it is. Not anything else. Not about how good it is, not about how great it is, not about how it looks, just about how wet ass it is. And no male has ever done that. They're pioneers. They're on the forefront. And as I find myself believing about most things that people talk about in this country, both sides are wrong.
Wow, that's some food for thought. I think I'm gonna have to reach out to Brandon Whittington and get him on that male centric version. So
the thing is, I don't know that I know of any male rappers who could do just like bone hard jokes, metaphors, and similes for 3.5 minutes and make it slap as hard as wet ass pussy does. I just don't think it's possible. I think they're on another level there. They're at the forefront. They're at the forefront. And the people who just keep, saying like when men don't do it. They're the only ones doing it, and they're incredible at it. Just this is a thing all to their own that they're doing.
You make a sound argument.
And then people who hate it are just, you just got to shut up. You can't. Yeah, you can't. Here's the thing. Follow me down this rabbit hole for a minute.
Let's go.
Let's say you heard the song, I Will Always Love You. Dolly Parton version, right? Dolly Parton's just singing, I will always love you. Even if you had never heard a woman tell you that they would always love you, even if you had never had a woman like be attracted to you in that way, you would not get online in an online forum and be like, hey, this song fucking sucks. People be like, why? And you'd be like, because it's unrealistic. And they'd be like, what do you mean? And he's like, because women don't tell you that they love you, and they certainly don't stay with you forever. It's bullshit. You know why you wouldn't do that? Because it's depressing and sad. But people do it about this song, and it's just as depressing and sad. They're like, oh, listen, I've seen some pussies in my day, and none of them have been all that wet. And you're like, well, that's a problem, buddy. That's a problem.
I'm sorry to hear that.
That's a problem for you, friend. You need to reconsider your sexual exploits.
And maybe find a partner who does get that pussy all wet ass.
Maybe find a partner who's into you, perhaps.
Ouch.
It's fucking weird. It's a weird opinion to be of.
Yeah,
I don't like this song about the wet. Shut the fuck up, then. I don't like it. I don't like to think about it. I don't like to talk about it. Certainly don't want to see it on YouTube. What are you using the internet for then? God, you're missing out.
So how do you advise your students to get over their writer's blocks?
I can shift gears. I have all sorts of tips and tricks. It's like write a recipe for a meal you don't know how to cook. Just write something. I believe that the physical act of just making your finger work, because I really do think that a blank page is intimidating. I think people look at it and because that first line, unless you scribble it out, is going to be the first line on that page until you throw that notebook away.
Yeah.
And notes, I write all the time. I'm writing songs constantly, but I don't physically write them down a lot up to this point, but I'm trying to make myself do that. Like I'm trying to get into the habit of, because I've felt like if I'm writing a song and I put it down on paper, that seems very concrete to me. I don't like scribbling things out. Right. So if I just remember it in my brain, if I forget it, or if I remember it a different way, it wasn't that important to keep it that other way to begin with. Right? If it was malleable enough that it could change, then there was probably a better line that could have been put in there anyway.
Sure.
Right? So, and very rarely do I go back and listen to like a cell phone demo after a song's been recorded and go, fuck, I left out a whole verse in there that was really good. It happened one time, and it was with this record. It's one time in my whole life. Like what I do is when I first come up with a riff, I'll maybe put it in my phone as like riff idea, right? Then if I go back and listen to it later and I come up with some lyrics and I try to get to a point where I've got a whole song. And once I've got that whole song, I kind of let it sit on my brain. I could play it every once in a while when I'm walking by the guitar or when I'm warming up or whatever. And the lyrics change, the melody changes sometimes the way I play the guitar changes, right? And then eventually when it's time to put out a record, I record the tune. And then I go, and then whoever's putting together the visuals goes, we need the lyrics. And I go, oh, fuck. I don't have them written down. So then I have to sit down on my laptop and type out all the lyrics and send them over. That's how it normally works, right? So I'm trying to make myself write more, but it takes a long fucking time to go through a whole notebook, right? It takes a long time to fill a whole notebook up.
Oh, yeah.
That's a lot of writing. It's not as much as you think, but I think it's the blank page that makes you think it's so much. There's this blank page and you're like, oh my God, the first line's going to be the first line forever. Like it's going to be there. It's intimidating. So I just like nonsensical writing prompts, kind of. I'm big into the writing prompts. So it's like, write a recipe for a meal you don't know how to make. Just get yourself writing. Start writing. Tell me everything you can about the wall that's directly in front of you. Describe it to death. And eventually, because you're a songwriter, because you're a unique human being who has lived a unique life through a unique vantage point, with a unique set of circumstances, you're gonna eventually say something about that wall that nobody else would say about that wall. And if you're not willing to sit and write until you say something about that wall no one else has ever said before, then you're probably not a songwriter and give it up.
I really see a lot of value in that. I mean, so generally speaking, I subscribe to that concept almost to a T with my own writing, whether it's creative or like a blog for an episode or whatever the case may be. I used to do a lot of freelance writing in the past, but for me, it's always been like, keep the ball rolling. It doesn't matter if it's kind of rolling in place for a little while, as long as it's still moving, because eventually it'll catch and just keep going. So for me, it's always just like stream of consciousness, but I really see a lot of value in like, well, okay, so these beautiful like dimensional subway tiles in the kitchen here right next to us, spending 10 solid minutes just describing one of those tiles could really, really bring out almost for someone who's never as a writer found or developed or just tried to like cultivate or nourish their own voice, being able to do that, I think could really help hone any sort of a writer. It doesn't matter what type of writer you are, but it really hone kind of your perspective a great deal. So yeah, I dig that.
Yeah, it's about, I think it's kind of especially for a new writer, there are two big things. Number one, just break the seal. Get over, write drunk, edit sober. That's the whole deal. like get in there and break the seal. Start writing. Something will happen. Okay, that's the one thing. And then the other thing is become a student of music. I think so many of us. How many times do you hear someone go, "I really like that new Cardi B song." And you go, why? And they're like, I don't know. I just like it. It's fun. And you're like, well, what do you mean by that? What do you mean by that? What's fun about it? Are the lyrics fun? Is the beat fun? Is it just pure beat fetishism? Like, are you just like, this is a great beat and I just want to move my body to it? That's fine. But there's a lot more to say about that than just, hey, it's fun. I don't know. Right? Especially when you're going to be a songwriter. So, the other big element of the songwriting class is that you got to listen to music all the time. You've got to take the classics, get yourself a Beatles song and just, get a day in the life and just put it into some headphones and close your eyes and listen to it. Why does this song work? Why do you like it? Why do you remember it? Why can you sing along with it? Why do you care? Why does it matter? Those kinds of things. And you'll start to find yourself going, oh, well, I kind of like the syncopation of the vocal line. I really like the meter that they're in. I just really like the feel of that. I don't really care for the subject matter. Okay. But you found something you like. And that's all you're really doing is you're taking that. I don't know about you, but I'm not like handy at all, like around the house, right? Like I can't fix a thing.
Sure.
But it's because like so much of design is covering up the way things are put together, right? We hide the hinges and we hide all this. So like, unless you've taken the thing apart and really looked at it, there's no way in hell you're going to know how to put it back together. And that's the same thing I think about songs. It's like, unless you're really listening to a song and going, okay, what do I like about this and what don't I like about this song, then you're never really going to fully understand the tool belt that a songwriter has.
Sure.
So once you start to hone in on that tool belt, and these are the different things I can try, and I can change my meter from verse to chorus, and I can change my melody, and I can change keys if I want. These are things I'm allowed to do because other songwriters have done them, and they worked for me, and it made me like a song more. So I can try that. What you're doing is building that toolkit. And then if you're sitting down every single day and writing something while you're simultaneously building that toolkit, you have no choice but to get better. I'm not going to say you're going to write a Grammy Award winner.
Right.
But I am going to say that your songwriting is going to get better.
Oh,
like it's just
inarguably, yeah.
There's a comic strip, I don't even know who did it, but it's like this person, this cartoonist, she's drawing, and somebody comes looks over her shoulder and is like, "Oh my God, that's incredible! Like, how do you do that?" Just like practice. It's like, no, I mean, you've got like a God-given talent. You're just, it's incredible. I can't imagine how you do that. And it's like, no, I just practice a lot. There's like, no, I could never do it. I could never. You're so lucky and so blessed, and it diminishes what that person's doing because that person's not lucky and blessed. That person busts their ass to get to where they are. Mm-hmm. And there are people who naturally can sit down and just look at you and draw pretty close to your face. There are people who can naturally do that, but their art's not ever going to progress beyond impressing somebody at a bar while they doodle on a napkin if they aren't putting in the work every single day. Right? Nobody sits down at a canvas and just sells it for millions of dollars. It just doesn't happen. No matter how naturally talented they are with spatial, arrangements and stuff. So, I don't know.
I think that's overall, that's pretty good life advice in general too. Like strip the music away from it and apply literally anything else. And sitting down with oneself and having that sort of like that deeper analysis and almost like meditating on not just the song that you've heard a million times but never really deeply processed, but even just your own opinions, right? And then another thing you said, and how the listener can diminish the artist's work. I mean, they're kind of highlighting in that moment exactly why and how they don't get it. They're very explicitly stating, I am not applying enough thought to my own day to day because I can't grasp that there's actually work and effort taking place here. And it's not just like a pipeline right up your asshole directly from the muse, with just natural piano playing ability to back it up. Like, that's nonsense.
Right.
Nothing. I mean, well, I guess it has happened that way, right? Like there are definitely astoundingly prolific artists who have done some pretty remarkable things in the past, but there's usually 99 point whatever, percent of cases. There's a lot of hours logged to get to that point.
Inspiration is for amateurs. The rest of us show up and work. I think that came from the War of Art.
That's a really good one.
Yeah.
I dig that.
Socks you right in the sack there.
Yeah. Because I think it places a responsibility there. I think artists have a responsibility, especially in times like these, where there's so much going on and things are so uncertain, and it feels like everything's everything's balanced on a knife's edge. Like it feels like it could tip one way or the other at any given moment. Regardless of what you believe about the world, this is a weird time to be in it. And I think you kind of touched on an idea that like people haven't done enough work in their own lives to recognize the work that you have to put in to be an artist like that. And I think that's true. I think I try to think of my relationship with music as kind of a two-way street, right? I create music. I'm a music creator. I do try to write things. I do try to distill the world as I see it into song. I do that. But I also consume music. And as a consumer, I feel that I have a responsibility. It's easy to zone out and listen to things that, just put yourself flat in the middle of an echo chamber. You listen to people who look like you, who have a similar experience to you. And They kind of process the world in the same way that you do, and they feed you the answers that you're looking for. It's more difficult to consistently make the choice to listen to art that's going to challenge you, or listening to an artist who's actually trying to figure something out, right? If your favorite artist is singing about how good everything is all the time, especially right now, you're probably not painting yourself a real accurate picture of the world, right? Like, I think music and art kind of has that ability to foster empathy, but you're not fostering empathy if you're not really trying to seek out the opinions of other people. And some music does exist completely independent of emotion.
Sure.
Not emotion. There's always emotion, I think, of some kind. It exists without topical substance. I think it's really interesting. We look around and we see the world that we're in right now and we go, how could this possibly have happened? Right? But like pop music has told us for the last 20 years to dance until we die, and we only have tonight, and to go to the club, and I don't care. I love it. We can do whatever. Nothing matters. Live for tonight, and then we wake up and Donald Trump's president, and there's a global pandemic. This is destroying the world, and people are like yelling at the old people that work at the door of Walmart for just being like, hey, could you please put on a mask? And like, blah, and losing their fucking minds. And we're like, how did we get here? It's like, because we listen to people, we've been looking up to people who told us nothing mattered for 20 years, right? And I don't know. You got to think about the possibility that, Make America Great Again is not a game plan for how to change the country, but neither is hope and change. Hope is not a game plan, and change is not a destination. These are two. So perhaps as we've tried our very best to distill everything down to a 2-second soundbite so that we can just say a thing and that everyone will go, that I either agree with that or I don't immediately. As we've tried our best to kind of pool our people into our decision making, we got blue ties and red ties and whatever tie color you wear, that's who you are as a person. They figured out a way to intrinsically sew your political identity to your DNA, right? So when someone comes up and says, "Could you borrow a mask?" It's like slapping your ancestor in the mouth, right? Like people are like, "I don't understand how they're getting so upset," and I'm like, "You don't, you don't." We've got this. We are. It's identity politics. We are who we vote for. We are what we believe in, and by believe, I mean what we say we believe in.
Sure.
Right. I just think, I think I get disappointed. I was at a demonstration recently. It was in Muncie. We got to the end, and I was like, "This was great." Everyone, I just wanted to be there so that human beings know that other human beings are supporting them. I'm not overtly political. I don't do that thing. In fact, I'm staunchly apolitical. But I just felt like there needed to be people there that looked supportive, right? So we're all marching around, and we get to the end, and they're like, and the number one thing you've got to do is pray and vote. And I'm like, those are two institutions that have historically done jack fuck for us. So maybe there are more important things we could turn to. I don't know. What can you do for the immediate person in your immediate surrounding? What can you do? Can you just be a better person tomorrow? And can you do something for somebody other than yourself with no expectation of getting something back? If everybody did that every day, and this is like the hippy-dippiest thing I've ever said out loud, but I just feel like it's true. Like, I feel like that would have so much more traction than just going and voting, because who knows if the mail even gets there.
We all got to be Jesus. That's you strip the dogma away from it, man, and that's what it's all about. That's the metaphor. That's the message that's in all the silly shit. It's just be what that character in the book is supposed to be. Mm-hmm. Just stop being such a shithead. Be a little more giving, and don't tie expectation to it, because then you're missing the point. Right. That's it. It's that simple. I completely agree with you, Ryan and Brewer.
I don't know, man. I got Netflix. I got Netflix. That Kid fucking island exists. It's out there.
Yeah.
People fly planes to it. It's gross.
Yeah.
It's disgusting. It exists. And there were people on it who were political. Sorry, I didn't mean to ruin your podcast.
No, this is great.
You'll never be able to harm our show as much as we can.
Oh, yeah. If this ship goes down, it's going to be our doing.
So I don't know. I think we need more responsibility for our own actions. Everybody does. You can stop fucking up. If your first reaction to just like people asking cops to stop killing them is to be pissed about it because you weren't involved in the slogan, it's so funny to me. It shouldn't be funny to me, but it is funny to me.
No, you lack a soul if you don't see the humor in that. Because it's farcical. It's fucking ridiculous. But I guess that's not.
Gillette is the best a man can get. What about women? Like practically, here's the thing. I understand that historically, guys who look like me have run everything. Like white, cisgendered males have run everything. But here's the thing. That's just what I am, though. Like, I still am that. I can't stop being that. So if I recognize a historical problem with my kind, if you will, what concrete wise am I supposed to do? Right? Where am I supposed to go? I would like concrete direction. I'm trying to just be a better human being.
Sure.
But as it come to find out, there are people doing way horrible shit that I don't really know how to affect. Like, I have no control of the cops either. I got a record. The cops don't like me either. I got news for you. Like, drank and drived once. Ooh. Just the cops don't leave you alone after that. Like I don't have any rapport built up with the police either. I don't know what I'm supposed to do.
Human shield.
Right? Ryan Reynolds apologized for him and Blake Lively's wedding the other day because it was on a plantation.
Oh,
which I was like, I've watched the news. I've been to a march or two. I've never seen anybody asking for that. I don't think that was paramount on the list of demands, was that asshole Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively need to apologize for where their wedding was. I don't think anybody like arrest bad cops and like try to make changes. I don't think it has anything to do with Ryan Reynolds' wedding. God damn it, you're a celebrity. No, this isn't about you right now. I gotta get in here and talk about what I could have done differently. Hey, well, Ryan, okay, all right.
Yeah, but by the same token, though, one dipshit blogger gets a hold of those photos and writes one like inflammatory post that catches fire, so and then you're almost obligated to try and
say something about. And that's another thing that I've been trying to think about. This is another tangent that I explore in my head sometimes. I think one of the biggest problems facing our country, I just started a sentence like that, so get ready for this one. I think one of the biggest problems facing our country is the general person, and I include myself in this, inability to understand large numbers.
Yeah.
I do think it's a problem. Think about, my buddy and I were doing this the other day. Think about how many things can you imagine 1,000 of them? Now think about how many things can you imagine 1,000,000 of them? The answer is 0. Okay. And then there are people who have billions of dollars. There are budgets that are trillions of dollars. We have no fucking conceptualization for how much money that is. We have no idea what our lives would look like if we were dumped that much money into our bank account. No idea. We don't get it. We don't know it, right? And then 60% of the population vote? And then fewer than half of those voted for Donald Trump? How many people are out on the marches? Thousands. Thousands. How many people exist in the United States? What proportion of people are sitting their ass at home and haven't been to a march or a counter protest? What percentage of people don't even watch the news? Who's talking to those people? There's a lot of people in this country, and I think it's easy for us, and it all comes around to what you brought up. I didn't go on that big of a tangent. But it all comes down, then we go, oh my God, this tweet. of somebody being mad about somebody's stand-up special got 10,000 likes. And you're like, that's nothing. That's vapor. That's nobody. That's statistically no one. That's within the margin for error. That statistically is no one. But in our minds, we're like, everyone's mad about Tracy Morgan's stand-up or whatever it is. Like whatever the newest thing is that people are mad at, everyone's mad about it. But in reality, almost no one is fucking mad about it. Right? Because most people don't know about it. And of the people who do know about it, some of them are like, hell yeah, whatever he said. And other people are like, well, fucking I'm mad. So that small percentage of people who might be mad had they heard about it now have to have heard about it and also be the type of person to care.
Yeah.
And there probably are 20,000 of them. They'll probably all hit like on that tweet. But what does that do? It does nothing. So I don't know. There are larger numbers at play here than like what we think, you know? Like what percentage of the United States population do you suppose makes north of $100,000 a year? 9. It's 9%. 91% of us,
that 9%.
91% of us don't even know what 100,000 of a thing looks like. I have no idea. I've never had 100,000 of any one thing other than like hairs, maybe, I guess. Like what? Never had 100,000 anythings in my whole life. And then, only 9% of the population have even had that. So like we've got a massive budget of $17 trillion in debt to the national the treasury. Nobody fucking knows what that means. Nobody knows. All they can do, they go, I can kind of imagine that $1,200 check hitting my bank account. I can kind of imagine it now because I've already had it happen once. So I can kind of imagine happening again. Having that much extra money that was just dropped on me. Not as a result of anything I did other than just like wake up and breathe in this country, right? People have billions of dollars. They have so much money that they could start counting it right now and they wouldn't have counted all the dollars before they died. It's insane.
Or even half.
Or even half it. So we don't have any idea how much it really is, and how much money is floating around. Like walk around Central Park and just look at all the multi-million dollar homes, $20, $30 million homes, just all the way around. You're like, there's that many people with that much money. Just in this, on this
square mile,
on this 10 by 10 island that we're in right now. There's just like numbers are insanely large. And if you think about that, like the idea of like people not going to vote because they're in a different part of the country and they're like, well, they already counted the numbers over there. It doesn't matter. It's because our understanding of numbers is asinine. Like we don't understand that, like, yeah, if we still all went, it would still make a calculable difference. But we can't fathom that because we're like, well, like 100 people already said they're not going on Facebook. Right. That means no one's going.
Lack of perspective is definitely a killer.
And it's not anybody's fault. There's just like most of us don't have any idea to have any reason to know how much of something that is. Like,
no point in human history has it been necessary to completely fathom in your head what 100,000 of something looks like. I got 12 coconuts back there. Like
that's what I got.
Yeah,
I got like 6 rows of corn. Yeah, that's all I got.
That's all I need.
However many corns is in 6 rows. That's how many I got.
And that's part of the thing too, is that I think a lot of the strife that's going on right now, it has something to do with observing things online that are being deliberately used to manipulate people, either for a tangible profit or to maybe sway opinion. There's that, but also B, people observing things that are completely out of context. Back to the whole like human history thing. For the majority of our development as a species, everything was 100% in context all the time. Like, unless you jumped into somebody's conversation in the middle of it, which you're apt to misinterpreting, you're constantly within context of your entire world. But when I see a meme or I see a video, even like a 2-minute clip or a 10-minute clip or even a 30-minute clip, or if I see an article that has a deliberately inflammatory headline, I can make snap judgments about that without really understanding the full context of everything that's happening around that. And I think that's being used in a very diabolical way right now.
Yeah,
in a lot of different ways. And it freaks me out. And I don't even try to like make sense of it anymore. It's just like, dude, there's so much information out there. I can literally find legitimate information over here and find completely contrary information over here. Why the fuck am I spending my time arguing with people about this anymore? It's just, I'm just going to focus on the things that I have control over in my immediate surroundings and kind of hope for the best for the world. I'm just like, okay, I'm enjoying the show, but like, fuck, you know, get it together. I hope to have kids someday, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think when people come to you to talk to you about a thing because you're their loved one or you're their, their relative or you're their friend or whatever, then that's the time to talk about it. Mm-hmm. Right. Like there's not like no good. I always think like, what's the tangible goal here in posting this or in being here or in doing this thing or in saying this or in releasing this? Like, what's the goal? What am I hoping to have happen? And a lot of times I'm looking at other people's activities in that respect and going, there isn't one. There isn't a goal there. There was no intention to learn. There was no intention to educate. There was no intention to converse, right? And here's the thing. If everybody who believed what they believed in 2016 believes the exact same fucking thing now in 2020, then the exact same thing is going to happen in the election, right? So when I see a lot of the vitriolic posting and the comment attacking and the like, the gloves are off now, we're coming at you like as hard as we can, and you're a white supremacist racist piece of shit, and you're like, is that guy changing his mind now? Like, is that how it works? He's like, who, me? I'm the holy shit, I had no idea I was the racist. I gotta go work on myself. Right? Like there's, what's the tangible goal there? Are we hoping to just hurt that person's feelings? That's fine. I've said lots of things in my life where the whole goal was to hurt someone's feelings. Not necessarily proud of it, but I'm kind of good at it if I wanted to be. Like, I can make fun of people relentlessly. But I've tried to stop doing that, right? Like, and especially in situations like these were big, heavy issues. You're like, what are you trying to accomplish there? You're just trying to hurt this person's feelings because they're not going to listen to you after you've hurt their feelings. And I also know that like sometimes peaceful, be quiet and just like lead by example. Sometimes that shit doesn't work, right? I don't know what the answer is. But I do know. So one time there was an opportunity to play a charity show. It was for Little Red Door, and I took it, right? And because Little Red Door does great things, and the little kids with cancer get to go to like summer camps and like learn things and have a good time and like live a fun life, which is like what everybody needs, but especially what little kids with cancer need, right? So I take the opportunity to play this show. I'm like, I'll be there, right? So that happens, and it goes down, and it's cool. And there's a demographic. It's like an expensive kind of ticket, right? You kind of have to pay to get in. There's like a touring act, and then I'm opening up, and there's a dinner, and it's a banquet, and it's at Lucas Estate, right? And so there's like a demographic. They got white guys playing acoustic guitars at this thing. Like, that's just what it is. But the money is all going to help kids with cancer, right? So I'm like, fine, I'll go play some songs to white people with another white guy, and we'll give money to kids with cancer. I'm not thinking that in my brain, of course, because this was before a lot of white people were dragged up by the collar and forced to look at the things that were going on, and I was one of them, right? So I didn't think about it that way.
Sure.
So then quarantine happens. Okay. And the same group is like, we're going to do live in quarantine. Would you like to do it? Of course I would like to do it. I'd like to do a show that like we're going to raise money for whatever. some underprivileged people getting food and stuff like that, right? So I'm like, great, let's do it. So I go play it. Come to find out, all white guys with acoustic guitars. Big problem. Everybody's very pissed. And one of the comments, because I read them all, because I'm an obsessive loser, I read them all. One of them's like, yeah, this is white supremacist attitude of all these white singer-songwriters to come play this show and not even think that it's not very inclusive in terms of a lineup. And I'm like, all right, first of all, this isn't a show with a lineup. It's a series of online virtual ones and zeros concerts that only hope to raise a little bit of money for some kids. That's it, right? It's not a show. It's not. We're not at the venue. We're not taking up a night. We're not making any money. We're not raising our visibility in the greater market. We're playing to a small niche of people, and we've been asked to do this, and we all said yes. That 100%, I'm saying it right now, does not make me a white supremacist. All right?
So, I disagree.
So, and my point is, what if I was, though? Like, would I change my mind as a result of that conversation? Would I be like, no, would I go from, actually, I took this show to raise money for kids with cancer because it was all white guys, right? What if I said that? Would I just change my mind because you called me a white supremacist for no fucking reason? Like, well, for a little fucking reason, but like, like I was on the bill and it was a pretty white looking room. All right. Okay. So like, but yeah, that's kind of my point. Like, what's the goal there? What are you hoping to accomplish? Are you large? And this is my opinion, just my opinion. I feel like people are largely virtue signaling. They go, this is what I believe and this is what I stand for. And if I say it in a public place with my fingers on a keyboard, then that's puts it into real life. I'm manifesting it into real life.
Sure.
And they don't think about who they might be hurting in order to do that. Mm-hmm. Right. And here you are, you've got a guy who is on the brink of dealing with his own depression and anxiety and issues, who just like tries to make songs and tries to make people feel better because it makes him feel good about how bad he feels most of the time. This is like what this guy does. And now he logs onto the internet for a charity concert and finds out he's a white supremacist. Surprise. That feels great. And I certainly didn't stay up for a couple nights on end thinking about that one in my head. Like, am I really a white? Is that what that means? That I took this show and this opportunity to help these kids with cancer, and that points to my own inherent white supremacism? I'm supporting the white. What? That's what goes on in my brain.
Sure.
And my point is, you don't think about when you're logging on to Facebook, all you're wanting is that self-fulfilling prophecy where I'm going to get online and I'm going to say this inflammatory thing. And my friends, and there are lots of them in the songwriting, in the Indianapolis music scene in general, are going to log on and click like on this comment. And that's going to make that guy who struggles with his depression feel real good too. And yeah, I do remember who clicked the like button on that particular comment, Indianapolis music scene, so I fucking know who you are. But anyway... but anyway, they're virtue signaling, knowing that these people are going to come through and like and click like, and they're going to get a big boost of endorphins out of that, right? And they're also going to know that the people who disagree with them are going to show up and be like, actually, what, blah, 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 blah. And the rest of us who feel bad about being called a thing for no, are just going to sit in the background and be like, well, what the hell am I supposed to say? Mm-hmm. I'm not going to come out and be like, you're right. I am a white supremacist, but I'm also not going to come out and be like, there's nothing wrong with this giant bill of all white guys. What's your problem? I can't say anything, right? And so it ends up being this like self-fulfilling prophecy of that person got exactly what they wanted out of it. Mm-hmm. And then people who didn't believe that statement are going to go, well, look at this person just getting all bent out of shape for nothing. It's both sides get what they want. Nobody has to really have a conversation and learn anything about the other side. They just get to they just get to sit and smell their own farts and talk about how good they smell.
Yeah. Just get that constant chemical hit.
Shit, your boy's on one today. Sorry.
Sounds like a bunch of white fragility to me.
I just feel like I'm allowed to like help kids when possible.
Yeah.
And also, like, Jesus, you could have sent me a message like privately and told me that, and I'd have felt just as badly about it, but I at least would have like had the conversation like, wait, why? Why does that make me a white supremacist? I'd like to learn your opinion, but I don't think a Facebook comment's really gonna do it.
Not solving a lot of problems there, no.
All right. I don't know that I don't know, and I don't, like I said, I don't know what does solve problems. I honestly don't. If I got a lot of problems myself that I'd solve if I knew how to do that. But I also just I have a hard time being mean to people just because like really mean, you know, like not in tongue in cheek, kind of like I'm gonna find that thing that gets under your gill and just pick on you because we're all having a good time together, but like be really mean to each other.
Well, there's not really much of a purpose for that in any context, as far as I can tell. I mean, there's what's, you know, arguably righteous. You know, you see a group of skinheads like about to beat down some like, you know, alone person of a minority or like or a marginalized, you know, sexual orientation or, you know, whatever the case may be. You know, if you've got the ability to go and like en masse, like whoop all that ass and like protect another human, yes, absolutely. But that's not necessarily a mean thing.
No, it's not.
You're not trying to ruin those guys' day for the sake of ruining their day. It's all about helping where you can. But I think the only thing we can do is rely on personal accountability, right? Like my favorite thing, the only way that I really feel like I'm ever helping anything is, for one, calling people out as assholes when I see them littering, you know, very, very vocally. I will get mean in those contexts, but that's just because I'm so pissed off.
I hate that shit.
But I mean, something as simple and stupid as holding up traffic because I'm in my car and you're on foot and you're trying to cross this busy street and I got places to be, but I can protect your life right now just by letting you cross and keeping anyone else from coming up behind me and smashing you.
Right.
And that's simple, but like I did something, you know, while it might not make a difference to that person in the moment, it could have made a difference if it were different circumstances, you know? So, you know,
hold yourself to a personal accountability that, like, given the opportunity, this is a Dave Chappelle quote. He said, I'm paraphrasing, but it's like, take every opportunity to be kind, especially when it's something that's easy to do.
Hell
and
yeah.
that kind of struck a huge chord with me, because I was like, yeah, there are so many opportunities to do a nice thing that are easy, you know?
It doesn't, it's real hard to give yourself any undue feelings of like going out of your way when it's something that's especially easy. And I think that, you know, it's a little more clean that way, a little less scumbaggy.
Yeah.
Because, you know, the virtue signaling extends well beyond social media. So,
yeah, I agree.
Man, we have traveled some great distences in a relatively short amount of time.
That's right.
They were large distances. I don't know if they were great.
Vast,
yes.
Vast difference.
We're sitting at 148 right now.
Wow, that's a good amount of time.
Yeah,
it's a good meaty podcast right there.
That is.
Well, here, what were you about to say, Ryan?
I was gonna maybe start winding it down, but lately we've been asking our guests what they would recommend or any advice that they would impart on somebody who's starting something. It may not be a songwriting thing. Maybe it's painting. Maybe they're starting a business. Anything it might be. Like what kind of bits of advice based on your experience would you impart on somebody like that that's starting out? They're wide open. They're vulnerable. They're ready for some kind of input.
Focus on your brand first. And here's what I mean by that. I don't mean logo. I don't mean stage name. I don't mean pen name. I don't mean canvas name or whatever it is when a painter does that. Banksy. Whatever that is. Just can name. Like, I mean, really thinking about your brand and working with Jake and Aaron on this website and a lot of stuff kind of made me think about that as an artist in a different way. And I was talking about having the epiphany of realizing what I like and what I really want to do. And were these things getting me closer to that, right? And that kind of ties in because when you're thinking of a brand, and Aaron taught me this, you have to ask 3 questions. It's who are you, what do you do, and why does it matter? Those are the 3 questions you got to ask. And that encompasses your brand, right? And if you can nail that down early on in the process, all of the other things kind of start to make sense, right? You start to go, well, this is the person that I am. This is what makes me uniquely me. And this is the thing that I do. And the reason that it matters here are all the reasons that are the things I feel I can add to society, but also the things that I'm good at, the things that I'm uniquely good at, and the reason that this is going to matter in a way that's different from all the other songwriters or all the other painters or whatever. Then all of a sudden your questions, you go, well, should I seek a record label? Was a record label going to get me closer to these things that I ultimately want to be and the things that I want to do and the strengths and weaknesses and do they lean on my strengths and shy away from my weaknesses and all those kinds of those decisions start to get easier. You go, do I want to go tour? Well, is that who you are? Do I want to put out records? Do I want to put out singles? Well, who are you? And what do you do? And why does it matter? Right? So figure out. I'm always blown away by the dudes that I know it's one guy. Maybe it's a guy and a girl or 2 dudes. I don't know. They started Bombas, the sock company.
Yeah.
Right? And their whole deal is that they donate 1 sock for every 1 sock that people buy. Right? And they redesign socks. But basically what they did is these 2 dudes came out of college and they sat down together and they were like, what do we, like, kind of did the branding thing. Like, who are we and what do we do and why is they had no idea what they wanted to do. They knew they wanted to run their own business. They wanted to be entrepreneurs, but they didn't know what they wanted to do. And so they really made the decision like, well, we want to help. We want to feel like we're giving back. We want to feel like we're making a positive impact. So they started to call around and were like, okay, well, what things does the world need? And they realized the number 1 requested item at homeless shelters is socks. And they're like, okay, well, they need more socks. There just need to be more socks given to homeless shelters. Well, we can't just like sit at home and sew socks and give them to people. So they go, we'll go the Tom's route. We'll have every one you buy, we donate 1, right? But they're like, but we don't want these to just be socks that people buy and then the socks fall apart and they suck. And so we need to like redesign socks. But the point is, every decision was very easy because they knew who they were and what they wanted to do and why it mattered to the world. They knew what they wanted to accomplish was ultimately to make a difference in the world while being successful on their own. So then the business model starts to make sense. Well, then the focus on quality socks starts to make sense. Like the idea of we got to hit as many homeless shelters as possible starts to make sense. Like we want to sell 1 million socks so we can give away 1 million socks. Like that starts to make sense once you understand who you are and what it is that you offer and why that matters, right? So focus on brand. That's my whole thing. I think if you understand those 3 questions and the answer to those 3 questions, everything else seems to get pretty easy. You're at least pushed in the right direction.
I've got some homework to do.
I mean, well, and the thing is, like, it always changes too.
Yeah.
Like it never stops. Like your brand never ceases to evolve because you are not the same person today you were yesterday and all that. So
I love that because it really condenses it down to 3 simple questions, not easy questions, but simple questions. And it really hits at the core of what's important, defining who you are, like really defining what you do and really defining why it matters.
Right.
You know? That's excellent, man. Thank you.
It's not mine. It's full credit to Erin Anderson at Anderson Creative. That's
Cool.
hers. She gave that to me.
Shout out,
It's
Aaron.
legit.
Yeah.
Thanks, Aaron.
Yeah.
What? So I did want to ask, as far as this new album goes, Exorcism. What's your favorite track and why?
Oh man, I think that's a good question. It's always hard to choose.
Well, here, let's
Hey,
paraphrase.
you got the Seed of Life on there. That's cool.
I'd say, 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 I' Angels and Muses, and here's why. I feel like Angels and Muses encompasses what the record's all about. Lyrically, musically, I got to the end of it was me and my acoustic guitar, and I wrote that song, and I thought to myself, like, I just wish that this song had kind of the weight and the gravity that my favorite piano tunes have. Like, I just always feel like there's this inertia that comes from a piano song. Like, it seems to me to be a rolling instrument. Like, it's once it's going, and the piano just rings out, right? So I love the gravity that piano can add to a tune, but I'm not very good at piano. So I thought to myself, hey, I'm gonna see if Katie Peterson would be willing to cover this song. So I sent her the song and I asked her, and she's the sweetest thing in the world. So Katie was willing to do it, and she just her piano and her voice, and recorded a cover of the song and sent it back to me, and I dropped that into the session file and started chopping it and adding things and taking things away, and what we ended up with was Angels and Muses featuring Katie Peterson, and that's kind of and lyrically I feel like it kind of sums up the record as an idea. Like the second you stop looking at past relationships and failures as things that happen to you, and start looking at them as gifts or opportunities to learn something moving forward, things get a lot easier. And I'm bad at that, but at least I've acknowledged that it's a thing that I should try to be good at. And I feel like that's one step in the right direction.
Yeah, you're much more now.
I am much more now. Yeah.
That's also a very empowering place to be.
Oh,
like, it's very disempowering to define your world as like, man, I'm just a passive observer.
Right.
Like, this is things are just happening to me. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It's kind of that scary in between where, like, yeah, you're not at the mercy of anything else, but also if it fucks up, it's your fault. You know?
Mm-hmm.
Ultimate accountability.
Yeah.
Love it. Here, Ryan. This is Ryan Selleck. Sorry.
Yep.
Yeah.
This is a line that I think you'll appreciate here. The bellows and the furnace built to forge a pin that's stronger than the sword.
There you go.
Brutal.
Relevant.
It's basically your theme song.
Works.
Podcast theme
Metal.
song. Yeah.
Works. Wow. Okay, so obviously, new album is out.
Yeah.
And where can people go to buy that?
You go to ryanandbrewer.com.
Okay.
And that's Ryan and Brewer. If you remember that, you remember it for everything. It's Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and all that. So ryanandbrewer.com.
And that's Brewer like beer.
Brewer like beer. Yep. And you can, M for motherfucker. And you can go there and buy the record, and, or, get links to Spotify if you want to do it that way, which is fine. Just if you're going to listen to it on Spotify, I beg you to play it while you sleep at night, but just put it on mute, so that I get the plays.
Repeat, baby.
If you do that for 10 years in a row, I'll make like $17.
Yeah. That's a nice sandwich right there.
It is. It is. It's a nice little dinner for just me.
Do that also, and buy the album, because the interactive website is super slick. You can download the tracks. You can download the lyric sheets. There's a ton of fun Easter eggs. The animations are all sick. It's awesome.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you very much.
And the music's really good too.
Yeah. So, it's like icing on the cake.
Plus there's music.
And there's also music there.
Yeah. I think I might steal your idea. This whole time, like, I've been kind of going in and out, like watching him playing with this website. I'm like, gosh, what would my kind of thing look like if I had something like that?
Oh, that could be fun. Real dark, creepy.
It'd be pretty dark. It'd be really dark.
Yeah.
Wow. Ryan, Mr. Brewer, thank you for taking the time, for huffing it all the way here to Indy. And,
for sure. No, I appreciate you guys letting me come. There's a lot of ins and outs and what have yous that go along with this record, and I was just looking for somebody who'd let me yammer for a couple hours. So I'm glad you guys were the perfect avenue for that.
And we went some places, and we
did. And I probably did things I'm going to get comments on social media about later, but whatever.
Just further cementing your place as a white supremacist.
Whatever, right. Just really. That's your advertising tagline for this episode.
Come listen to episode 13 of Forging Flame with known supremacist Ryan and Brewer.
See, I don't even want to joke about that because I'm so terrified for you.
Somebody's just going to be clicking through and they're, oh shit.
Oh no.
They only listen to that 1 5-second.
Yep.
Oops.
It was like that episode of, what was it? Is it Craig Ferguson, where he used to just do the moment of silence, where he would have guests on and they would just, you want to do the moment of silence? They'd say, yeah. And so they'd just sit there for a minute. So for anybody who happened upon that channel, and during that minute they would turn it on, and it would just be people just sitting on a stage staring at each other. And I was like, that's a really big idea to pull off, right? That at any given moment there could be, I don't know what the numbers are, like, right? Because I don't know numbers. I'm an idiot. But like at any given moment there could be 1,000 people that just click onto that channel and be like, what the fuck's going on? Why is everybody sitting here silent? Yeah, that's what's going to happen. Somebody's going to just like click around on YouTube, and then it's going to get to they're going to settle on just one line to listen to, and it's going to be known supremacists.
No, I'm sorry. There was an asterisk there. I should clarify. Known to not be a white supremacist.
Known to be not a white supremacist.
All right. Well, Ryan, awesome. Thank you again so very, very much. This has been a blast. I loved hearing everything that you had to say, really. I think that people are going to get a lot out of this. So
Thanks, man.
Sure.
I think it was a lot of fun. I appreciate you guys.
Cool. Thanks again, man.